Not sure if this is fully working, but I wanted to wish everyone a happy 2017. I've been thinking for the last few days and been actually putting off this video because I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to say, and it's really weird looking at the camera directly. But I decided I wanted to make a sort of 2016-2000 recap, merge into 2017. Just to let everyone know how last year was and how chaotic but awesome it was at the same time. The hair, sorry, happens. And wanted to also thank everyone that even watches this, because it is taking time out of your busy day to watch this, so knows. So 2016 was a very interesting year for me. It had its ups and downs and my own personal caused moments or issues and everything. And as you can see, I'm a laptop fidgeting with this, but ultimately I would say it was a good year. 2016 started out, I was out in California visiting the girlfriend at the time and her family for Christmas and New Year's, and then ended up getting begged to stay but decided not to because, well, final semester of college versus staying out in Cali, you gotta go with finishing your education ultimately, even if love interests come in the way. But it started out really crazy because I ended up becoming Anime Club president at the end of 2015, and everything was in shambles. We had no approved budget. We didn't have an approved meeting place. Group members it dropped all the way down to 4 people at one point, and then after a problem at the beginning, it dropped down to just me and one other person, which was horrible for college club of any sorts. But luckily, I was able to bring in some of the freshmen, sophomores, even juniors into the club that didn't even know it existed, which is crazy. And get it to grow to where it was at January. I think we had 30 members with 10, 15 coming each week just to hang out, watch anime with us and whatnot. But so it started out crazy because, like I said, we didn't have that approved budget. So it was getting the school board, or like the student council, to approve budget that we had previously been approved of, but because we hadn't been registered as a club in the fall due to other president's issues, we had to get that approved. And we had the big event that we had budgeted all the money for, OhioCon, like literally I think it was the second week back. So a lot of stuff had to get done, like being approved as a club and getting the budget reinstated and hotel rooms and tickets and everything. And luckily we got it done. But sadly we didn't get everything perfectly done to where everyone could come that the amount was budgeted for, but we did get enough done so that me, Colton, David, and or not Colton. I don't think Colton. It was Austin, Ken, and David and I were able to go to OhioCon and still get everything. And luckily Amber drove us. But funny story is, on the way to OhioCon, I don't remember OhioCon as much as just the drive to OhioCon, because on the way, the car broke down. Like, the one tire, like the car was shaking, and she's like, oh yeah, it happens sometimes. And I'm like, okay, are you sure? We should probably get it checked out. She's like, no, it happens sometimes. And the tire blew out, which was awful, because poor girl had done us a favor driving us to OhioCon, and her poor car tire died. And then, so it's like, oh god. And then we put on the spare tire because it's like, okay, we're a few miles away from a mechanic and we can get a different tire and whatnot. So we put on the spare tire and we start driving, and the car starts shaking again. And she's like, "Oh, a few seconds later, tire blows out again. This even the spare. So we're stuck on the side of the road, and it's just, oh god. I think we were out there, 3 or 4 hours waiting on the side for her dad to come bring an extra tire, but the tire didn't have the right stuff. So the car had to be towed to the mechanic, which luckily they stayed open for us after having issues. But me, Ken, and David actually had to walk in the dark and cold, like up the highway to an exit, and then find a random Subway to chill out at for like an hour and a half walking, which was crazy at the time. It's a funny story looking back, but it was just like, oh god. And so we did OhioCon, and we came back, and Anime Club grew and still had members, which was awesome. Because I think even now it's still going, which is still good, even if they have their limited budget. But so then, being my senior year, it felt really weird because I knew I was going to graduate, and that year, that year was the first year that I felt like I actually connected with people and made friends. And I really hate that the shirt is sticking out, so I'll just pull it out. I'll pull it out and hide the Brady numbers. But first year that I felt like I connected with people, made friends, and interacted was actually like getting the college experience. So I was regretting leaving. It was a horrible feeling. Like knowing that deadline was coming up, to the point where I even considered at one point, I was like, all right, I'm just going to, fail this class that I need to graduate just so I can stay an extra year to interact with these people, which is crazy. But at the time, because it was such a strong feeling, was almost acted upon. But also, like, we're going to cut much of it down, but between January and April after OhioCon, there was some stuff that happened between me and the girlfriend at the time. She kind of pulled away, partially because, well, now I realize part of it was because of her ex being involved, and part of it was my own selfish interaction with focusing on school and everything, and not really paying attention to her. But then, so that caused some issues, but was just focused on completing everything, and it's really hard to focus. Sorry. But then fast forward to April, like between all the different arguments and studying and partying and all that fun stuff. And I actually got to study abroad in China, and it was my first time leaving the country, other than to go to like Canada or Mexico, go through all these. And so, oh god, being a tall person as I am, it was horrible flying, because just having your legs shoved in. And I was, the night before the flight, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to fall asleep on the plane because it's a long plane flight. Oh god, it was, you never realize how bad a long flight is until you are awake for the whole time and have nothing to do other than watch your like little TV. And even then, so I think it was around 52 hours of being awake while traveling, because of the whole international dateline and everything. So it was pretty bad. I then couldn't fall asleep right away while I was in China. But we stopped in Beijing first. God, if you think huge cities in like the U.S., Beijing is, yeah, it's just ginormous, and it was really cool getting to see like the Great Wall and everything, um, and go to the Olympic space, uh, and then we got to go to Xi'an and go to the Muslim district and just had some of the spiciest Chinese food I've ever had, and it was just like, and right, we actually rode around on top of the wall, which is just like crazy. It just goes around the whole city, and it was just this crazy view. But it was like, oh god, and it was a really hot day, so it's just like, but then we went to Hangzhou, which was our one teacher, Xin Lu's home, like city, and she had been like, oh yeah, it's really pretty, really pretty. And then I was like, okay, when we're first getting through, there's a whole bunch of construction. I'm just like, ugh, this isn't very pretty. What are you talking about? And she's like, oh yeah, the G20 summit's coming. And so, but then once we got through and we got to certain points, we actually we got to kind of like see its actual beauty. And the lake itself, like by it, was just, and I totally forgot. We went to the Summer Palace and everything while we were in Beijing, but it was still. We also got to go see the Terracotta Warriors, which actually not that exciting. The pictures are better, but I guess kind of seeing it for yourself is kind of the experience, but it's still like, even thinking the multitude of clay soldiers that are under there is like wow. But in person, it's just like, oh, what a waste of time. Not, I know that's horrible to say, but we ended up doing our homestay with the Chinese family, which was really cool. My homestay student was kind of busy, but he was a cool dude. He loved basketball, and he loved Kobe Bryant. And I feel really bad because the gift I brought over, we hadn't got to talk before going over like a lot of the other students had with their homestay family. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this isn't really going to work, or we're not gonna really know much. But the family was really kind. I felt really bad because the mother, like our whole family, wanted to do all this, and like I'm like, no, too much. But it was still really cool. The fact that they can eat like ribs without like using their hands, like they kind of use chopstick to get the like thing. It was weird. It was cool, but it was weird at the same time. But on one of the like free days, we actually went to a anime convention, Chinese anime convention. It was just like there were so many people, and that's actually where I got this Poro and Koro Sensei, as well as a whole bunch of other things that I brought back for way less than it would have cost over here in the U.S. But it was still a really cool experience to go see other people enjoying the same things I do, and like playing Magic or playing video games or following League of Legends or dressing up in cosplay, or even like just enjoying anime where they were. But it's very different to our style anime conventions where you have guests, speakers, and like famous voice actors, or like you have different events where people interact. It was more kind of trying to sell the thing. There were a lot of vendors there, and there were a lot of like even like the big name companies like Blizzard, and I'm trying to remember who else was there. Obviously Magic was there. They had like Blizzard had WoW, StarCraft, HOTS like in one area, but it wasn't really, oh yeah, go interact and try this. It was like they did have that, but it was more about selling everything, which was not as fun as like an actual US style anime convention, which I'm looking forward to the anime convention in Pittsburgh and Teco in April, but that's besides the point. We'll get back to that. But then we so ended up then going to Shanghai, and I got to go into the Pearl Tower, which is this huge tower, and I have a fear of heights, so just even like going into it was this like massive accomplishment. And it's really sucked when we actually left China, because I really enjoyed the time. I actually was one of the students that was like, all right, let's actually stay, not go back to the U.S., like see if I can get a work visa or whatnot. And I'm still even considering that now. But it was just this whole different culture, and like at first you have this sort of cultural shock. It's like, wow, this is really different. But then when you're over there, you see how the people are not that different from everyone else, and they work within their own means of like financial spectrums to get things done, and they actually have a better sense of community and self-responsibility, whereas like here in the US, everyone is all about, oh, me, how do I get more money, how do I do better for just my family, rather than how do I do better for the whole community. And it was a very eye-opening experience, which is probably the reason why I do want to go back. But then came back, graduated, which wasn't very excited about graduating, because then I had to say goodbye to everyone, which was really upsetting, because I had made those friends, and I didn't want to say goodbye to them. It was really hard. But on the same time, I was like, all right, I know I need to go on with my life. I need to go find my own path, find my own way. And then was just like, okay, well, then about a week and a half later, I flew down to Georgia to go to Eric and Jenny's wedding. Eric and Jenny are Amy, the girl I was seeing's close friends, and it was really weird going to a wedding of somebody you don't know, just because you're dating one of the bridesmaids. It was like, you have all these wedding duties. What do I do while you do these? And so for one day, I was really pissed off, because I wanted to spend time with her, because I hadn't seen her since January, like in person. And it's like, she's like, oh, I have all these wedding duties to do. You stay in the hotel. And I'm like, luckily, the people I had, like part of the groom's bridal party, or the Hodges and Leon and everyone else, were really cool guys, and they're like, oh yeah, you can come tag along, come do this, while they get the whole wedding celebrated, or not celebrated, God, set up, because the bride side normally wants to have everything perfect, everything done, get everything set up. And so it was really cool meeting them. We actually went to like this little mini theme park with like mini golf and bumper boats and go-karts and an arcade and laser tag and whatnot, and did all that while they went and got their hair done, manicures, pedicures, all that stuff, which was a lot of fun. And then like it made me less like guarded, because it was like, okay, cool, there's these cool people here, even though I don't know them that well, doing something. Then the next day was the wedding, of course. It was really cool getting to be a part of it, like just even witnessing it, because it's like, I don't know these guys, and I'm fortunate enough to be here. And it was just this really very, it was a simple but sweet kind of wedding, where they didn't invite a whole bunch of people. It was like some family and friends from each side, and they just went into this little resort kind of in the back area of Georgia, where they had a wedding. And then they were like staying in a log cabin for like a little bit, and we just hung out there the final night, and then ended up like I think sometime around 10, me and Amy left to go back to our hotel while everyone else, everyone else, kind of left too, to leave Eric and Jenny alone as well. But then it was just like that night I ended up finding out about her ex being involved. I didn't know at the time. Like between that January to April area, I didn't really know. I sensed something, but so I was really pissed because some of that shit had already happened before, and I was like, come on, not fuck this again. And so I was originally supposed to get out to Cali on the 4th, and this is like the 23rd at this point, I think. 23rd, 24th-ish. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm not going to put up with this shit again. This was a whole problem like last year, so I probably am not going to come to Cali. Because it's like, you want me to visit. I have other things like E3 and stuff that I want to go do out there. But why should I come early for this if there's going to be problems? So like that week and a half, just spent talking, and this is actually going a lot longer than I thought, so I'm really sorry. But we just spent the week talking, and then it was decided that if we wanted to see where it would go and how things could be improved. So the first week out there was pretty cool. And then I went to E3. I actually went to the Xbox Fan Fest thing, where they were doing like giveaways for it, and everybody like lined up at this mall to have the like be one of like one. I think it was 1 out of 500, or it was 500 people, but there were like I think like 1,500 to 2,000 people that went to the mall to try and be part of the Fan Fest. And originally my number had been called, but because of everyone around me and because of the communication system, like where they were just yelling the numbers to one another, it was not audible at the time. Like I couldn't hear it. I was like, hey, I thought that might be my number, but I'm not sure. And then I asked, and they're like, no, it was this number last. So I'm like, okay, well, so we're out there in the cold, well, California cold. Seeing as I'm in Pennsylvania, that's nothing. But where they're yelling the numbers for hours and hours, and we're down to like the final 10, final 15, and I'm like, well, fuck, my number still hasn't been called. And I've been here all these, and my hotel, I canceled for that one night because I'm like, okay, well, if I win, I have to be out all night, and that's a waste of money to do like pay for a room for the night and not use it. So I was like, well, fuck, I need to just like wait it out. Well, then it was, I think, like 3 or 4 a.m. at that point when they're like, all right, all numbers have been called. We're going to go through the numbers that haven't been claimed / called back yet. And that was when I found out that my number had actually been one of the first like 10 or 20 called, and because of their communication system, I hadn't heard it, and I was like, well, shit. I'm lucky I heard it now. But the people I was hanging out with while waiting were really cool too. You had Zeppy and Jonathan and San Diego. I want to call him San Diego, but his name is Diego. And what's that guy's name? I can't remember his name right now, and I feel really bad. But we all just like chilled in line and hung out. And you had to stay there the whole night until the morning. Doors opened to be able to claim your thing. So it turned out that like everyone who went got a entry to E3, which, as well as going to the press conference for Xbox in the morning. But it was really funny because I had already gotten my badge for E3 because of doing writing with Gamers Bliss at the time. So I already knew I was going to get into E3. So I was like, well, what do I do? Well, I ended up giving one of my badges to somebody at Bethesda's wife so that she could go with him to the event, which was, his name is Fit. Well, we'll call him Fizz. But he was really cool dude. And just getting to let them in and everything, and getting to do the whole FanFest experience of like getting to see The Rock. And we didn't get to see The Rock. We got to see The Rock and Kevin Hart movie. I forget what it was called. That's how little impact it made, but we got to see it before it released, which was really cool. Even if the DC guy teased us and said it was going to be Suicide Squad, and it was not, which was heartbreak, but it was still really cool to see it. But then got to see E3 and got to see The Last Guardian announce some more Kingdom Hearts stuff. And then got to go on to the show floor and ran into my buddies from the previous year. And during like the Bethesda press conference, there was some bumps, and it was basically I had made known to Jim that I was considering moving on to a different site, just because I didn't feel Gamers Bliss was growing, and ended up causing a backlash kind of with the rest of the community crew, and ultimately the way it was handled wasn't the best on either side, which sucks, but ultimately still thankful for the experience and getting to do everything, because they still feel like family. I know I ended up about a week or two after E3 joining a site called Mariners Rocks, and I'm now writing for them, but the feeling of Gamers Bliss to Mariners Rocks is a lot different, where even though they're more helpful, it feels like, and I feel like my writing is growing, I don't feel as connected or family with them, like a family with them, whereas with Gamers Bliss's crew, it was like, oh yeah, we talked about anything, everything outside of video games. Had these interactions where we'd play online or just hang out and just talk. And so it's a very different feeling. But I'm still thankful to both sites for the experience. But then did E3, and then was still out with Amy, where I was like, all right, I can either go home because I'm not sure how I feel about this relationship anymore, or I can stay out here and see how it goes. Well, the first few weeks afterwards was really bumpy, and I'm like, oh, why did I stay out here? This is not working out. I should just cut my losses and run. And where it actually got to a point where we weren't happy, and it was just toxic on both ends. Family and friends on both sides know what happened, like different versions, but basically it was at a point where I was like, all right, I'm ready to leave. I did care about you, and I wanted to be out here with you and see where it goes, but this isn't worth it. And then right as I was about to leave, she started to warm up, and it was like, okay, this is starting to get better. This feels like it's, an actual relationship, and it's like we're talking about things more, we're interacting more, and it feels like it's reconnecting. Well, now, when a few months ago, when she and I last talked, it was, she goes, oh no, we ended up deciding to let me stay longer. I had money, and I was also still considering looking for a job out there to move out there. So it was like, oh yeah. So I had also been called for interviews. So she's like, yeah, just stay, do the interviews, see how it turns out. And it seemed like it was getting better, but then now, like I was saying, after talking with her, she's like, oh no, I only decided to let you stay out here longer because you wanted to, because of the job interviews. And I'm like, okay. and she was actually supposed to go to a wedding in Georgia for her cousin, but stuff was happening at work where they didn't want to let her leave, and her parents actually got involved to the point where they're like, all right, well, you gotta, work comes first. You can miss your cousin's wedding, and just make sure you keep your job at Roller Shade. And it just, I felt really bad because it's like, okay, well, you were going to go to this wedding. Even though you didn't pay for it to go out there, you still wanted to go to your cousin's wedding at the beginning of August, and now you can't. So it was trying to be really sweet to her. And part of the reason why I also wanted to stay in August was because it was the anniversary of when I had first gone out there and interacted with her. And so it seemed to be getting better, but then at the beginning of September, I still had money left, and the interviews have been fine, but I didn't really find one that really felt right, if that makes sense. And was like, all right, I want to schedule more interviews, stay longer. And she's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, you're being a financial burden on me. And at the time, I didn't understand because I didn't know all the details, like how the utilities went up. Yes, I still, for electric, I still say that she's partially to blame because of the air conditioner that she always wanted on. But it was just, I was really pissed at the time. But then, so came back and spent time with my mother. Ended up finding out what was going on in her life. Ended up finding out something I had been wondering about my father for years and years, where I'd ask her and she'd be like, no, no, no. Finding out that, and then getting to find out all that. But I know I've said that a few times, but basically if I hadn't come back, I wouldn't have learned this stuff. But then I ended up taking a part-time job with a company called Working America in October, doing election stuff and just talking with people about the election and gathering information. And did that for about a month. And then you had Trump ended up winning the inauguration, which was kind of surprising because when you go back to 2014 and even 2013, the idea of Donald Trump winning the election was like, you're kidding, right? He's the joke candidate. No, there's no way. He's just one of the celebrity candidates that will fall out within the first few months, first year and a half. He's a joke. And no, he ended up winning, which was shocking to some. For bigger city people, it's like, whoa. So yeah, you ended up having that. And then at midway, towards the end of September, I know I skipped this, ended up breaking up with the girl out in Cali, Amy, just because it wasn't working out. We still interacted on Skype and everything and talked through text for those few weeks after, but it didn't really seem right. It was just a whole bunch of arguing at the time and a whole bunch of anger and hatred, and upsetness. And it was time to kind of cut the loss, where I was just like, hey, it's not working. And she's like, yeah, I know. And just decided it was not going anywhere. But then it was an interesting experience. Stayed here in PA for Thanksgiving and Christmas, spent with my mother, which I'd normally, for Christmas, spend it with Amy in some way. And actually didn't interact with my grandfather, which was really rare, because I think it's maybe like one of 5 or 4 Christmases out of 26 that I hadn't. So it was just like, whoa. Yeah, so that was pretty much all that happened in 2016. I mean, there's other stuff, some stuff that shouldn't be talked about, like the girl in Texas. Some stuff that was just, daily stuff, like going to Buffalo. Went to Niagara Falls with some friends, Matt King and Stephen Downey. I went to the League of Legends midseason invitational while in China. I forgot about that. I got to cover that live, which was really cool. But now it's 2017. Trump's president. The Patriots are facing the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and you can see with the Patriots jersey on who I'm pulling for in the Super Bowl. And it's going to be an interesting year in some way. I do think the Super Bowl is going to be won by the Patriots. I am interested to see what happens with Trump as president. I'm aiming to go back out to California or even China by May, June. I've already started talking to one company about teaching over in China, which would be really cool. Or going back to Cali, where I felt really good. Whereas here, it's just like, weather's crazy, gray skies. And yeah, so 2017 will be interesting. I may end up doing grad school. I'm talking to a few right now about what they need from me and if my work history is even good. But alright, this went longer than I expected, but thank you for, if you did watch it all the way through, putting up with it. I do want to thank Colton for doing a good job with Anime Club, taking over. Do want to thank Amy, Nick, Patrick, Mitch, Ben, Ben Gaelic and Ben Bahana, Henry, Zach, Devin, who else? Everyone out in California I spent time with. Tuesday, my mother, of course, bless her soul. My grandfather, too, for helping me get through college, like, financially. Man, who else? Nick, Lamar. My Working America family. Man, I suck at this. Thank you stuff. And Josh Smith, Abby, Matt, Jen, Katie, Troy, Austin, Chandler, David, Josh, even Jeremy, bless his special heart, Mom and Ryder. There's one for you, Chandler. But yeah, 2016 was ultimately a good year, and I wanted to take out that time to thank everyone that made it special. Also, side note, built my own computer, like desktop computer, and have it with the TV, and got a new keyboard, so that's pretty cool. So I want to thank Zach for helping me build that too. But peace out. Hope you all have a good 2017.